The debate over gun control in America is once again at the forefront, with the Supreme Court poised to decide the fate of a major assault weapon ban. This decision could have far-reaching implications for the nation's gun laws. This October, a new legal challenge targets Cook County, Illinois, aiming to overturn the Blair Holt assault weapons ban in place for over 30 years. The case has garnered national attention, with both sides preparing for a fierce legal battle. Gun rights advocates see this as a pivotal case, one that could set a national precedent and unravel similar laws across the country. They argue that such bans infringe upon their Second Amendment rights. The current conservative-leaning court is being asked to revisit the Second Amendment in light of its own 2022 decision expanding gun rights. This previous ruling has already influenced lower courts and could play a significant role in the upcoming decision. The outcome will impact not just legal doctrine, but the daily lives of millions, touching on personal safety, constitutional rights, and the nation's identity. Communities across the country are watching closely, aware that the ruling could change the landscape of gun ownership and regulation. The Supreme Court's decision to hear this case would signal a major shift in its approach to gun regulation. Legal experts are divided on how the justices might rule, given the court's recent history. While the court declined to hear similar cases from Maryland and Rhode Island earlier this year, several justices indicated they were waiting for the right case. The Cook County petition appears to be that case. Designed to test the limits of the Second Amendment under the new legal standard the court itself created. The Cook County petition is designed to test the limits of the Second Amendment under the new legal standard the court itself created. Legal scholars believe this case could redefine the balance between individual rights and public safety. The stakes are real. A ruling could reshape law enforcement, gun ownership, and communities affected by mass shootings. The emotional and societal impact of this decision cannot be overstated. Striking down assault weapon bans would be a landmark victory for gun rights advocates. They believe it would affirm their constitutional freedoms. Upholding them would be a blow to gun control supporters. They argue that such bans are essential for public safety and reducing gun violence. As of Halloween 2025, the future of America's most significant gun laws hangs in the balance. The nation waits with bated breath for a decision that could redefine the Second Amendment for generations to come. To grasp the significance of the Cook County case, we must revisit the Supreme Court's 2022 Bruen decision. Bruen established a new test gun laws must align with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation, not just balance public safety against rights. Now, courts must compare modern laws to those from the 18th and 19th centuries, creating deep uncertainty and division. Supporters of assault weapon bans argue these firearms are far more advanced than anything the founders imagined, and thus, outside the Second Amendment's original intent. Some courts have agreed, upholding bans on this basis. Gun rights advocates counter that the Second Amendment protects firearms in common use for lawful purposes, pointing to millions of AR-15s owned nationwide. They argue that without a clear historical precedent for banning such popular weapons, modern bans are unconstitutional. This is the core argument now before the Supreme Court. The Cook County assault weapon ban has become the focal point of a heated national debate, drawing attention from lawmakers, activists, and citizens across the country. As the spotlight intensifies, the ban stands at the center of the ongoing struggle over gun control in America, with passionate voices on both sides making their case. The Blair Holt ban, first enacted in 1993, prohibits the possession and sale of more than 125 models of firearms, including well-known rifles like the AR-15 and AK-47. It was named after a Chicago teenager killed in a tragic shooting, and its passage marked a turning point in local gun legislation. For decades, courts consistently upheld the law's constitutionality, but the Supreme Court's Bruen decision in 2022 dramatically changed the legal landscape, introducing a new standard for evaluating gun laws. In June 2025, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the Cook County ban, setting the stage for a high-stakes challenge before the Supreme Court that could have nationwide implications. Gun rights groups quickly appealed, arguing that the ban violates the Bruen standard since there's no historical tradition of banning the most popular rifle in America. They claim the law is out of step with the Second Amendment's original meaning. Justice Kavanaugh has previously hinted that the Supreme Court was waiting for a case like this to directly address the constitutionality of AR-15 bans, signaling the court's interest in resolving the issue. The petition to the Supreme Court emphasizes that between 15 and 20 million Americans own AR-15s, making them in common use, and raising questions about whether such a widespread firearm can be banned. Now, the Supreme Court faces a pivotal question: can a government ban the most popular rifle in America, or does the Constitution protect its ownership? The answer could resolve a growing split among lower courts and set a precedent that will shape the future of gun laws in the United States. The arguments over assault weapon bans center on public safety, constitutional rights, and the nature of the weapons themselves. Supporters say AR-15s are military-style firearms, exceptionally dangerous, and not intended for civilian self-defense, citing Supreme Court language that allows limits on dangerous and unusual weapons. Courts like the Fourth Circuit have upheld bans, reasoning these guns are more like military M16s than hunting rifles. Gun rights advocates argue the features that define assault weapons are mostly cosmetic, and that AR-15s function like any other semi-automatic rifle. They stress that millions of law-abiding Americans use these rifles for self-defense and sport, making them in common use and protected by the Second Amendment. This fundamental clash is now before the Supreme Court. For more than a decade, Maryland's legal battle over its assault weapon ban has shaped the national conversation on gun control and constitutional rights. In the wake of the tragic Sandy Hook shooting, Maryland lawmakers took decisive action, banning AR-15s and high-capacity magazines. This bold move sparked years of heated litigation and public debate, drawing national attention to the state. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals repeatedly upheld Maryland's law, reinforcing the state's authority to regulate firearms. But the Supreme Court's 2022 Bruen decision, which changed the legal landscape for gun rights, forced a fresh review of the ban. In August 2024, after careful reconsideration, the court again upheld the ban, describing these firearms as military-style weapons that fall outside the core protections of the Second Amendment. Gun rights groups quickly appealed to the Supreme Court, hoping for a nationwide ruling. But in June 2025, the Supreme Court declined to hear the case, leaving Maryland's ban in place, at least for now, and fueling further debate. However, Justices Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch issued a strong dissent, signaling a deep divide within the court, and a willingness among some justices to revisit the issue in the near future. Justice Kavanaugh, in a separate statement, suggested the court would soon address the constitutionality of such bans, pointing to cases like Cook County's as potentially better vehicles for Supreme Court review. For now, Maryland's law remains in effect, but its ultimate fate is uncertain, and now hinges on the Supreme Court's next move. The eyes of the nation are watching closely. The outcome of the legal battle in Illinois could set a precedent, determining the future of similar assault weapon bans across the country and shaping the national legal landscape. The legal crossroads is here, and the next chapter in America's gun debate is about to unfold. A Supreme Court decision striking down the Cook County ban would have immediate nationwide consequences. About 10 states, including California, New York, and New Jersey, have similar assault weapon bans. A ruling against these laws would erase decades of state-level gun control, forcing lower courts to strike down existing bans. States considering new bans would be blocked, and lawmakers would lose a key tool for addressing mass shootings. Conversely, if the court upholds the ban, it would validate the reasoning of lower courts and embolden more states to pass similar laws. Either outcome would reshape the legal landscape, setting a new national standard for what gun regulations are permissible. The ripple effects would be felt in legislatures and courtrooms across the country. The Supreme Court's decision will define the limits of state power over firearms for years to come. The fight over assault weapon bans is a microcosm of America's broader struggle between public safety and individual rights. Supporters of bans cite mass shootings and argue that limiting access to high-capacity rifles is common sense. They see regulation as a necessary government responsibility, not an infringement on the Second Amendment. Gun rights advocates view these bans as collective punishment, undermining a core constitutional right. They argue that responsible citizens should not be penalized for the actions of a few, and that self-defense is paramount. This ideological divide ensures the Supreme Court's decision will have lasting cultural and political impact. As the Supreme Court prepares to rule, the future of gun legislation in America is more uncertain than ever. Striking down bans would force gun control advocates to pursue new strategies, like red flag laws and enhanced background checks, each facing its own legal hurdles. Upholding bans would preserve state power to regulate firearms, but deepen the divide between states with and without such laws. Regardless of the outcome, the debate over guns will persist, with new legal and legislative battles on the horizon. The court's decision will not end the conflict, but set the stage for the next chapter. The only certainty is that America's gun debate is far from over. The Supreme Court's ruling will shape the nation's future, and its identity, for years to come.